The next Lee and Ian podcast is approaching the station. Please step aside.
And welcome to the Lee and Ian Show. I'm Lee Navlin.
And I'm Ian Grotman.
The Lee and Ian Show is sponsored by Grodman Law and Mediation. Remember, when it comes to divorce, family first, your children first. Mediation, it's the way to go. Grodman Law and Mediation.
Thank you, Lee.
Ian, you are quite welcome. And Ian, if you want to check out my latest, it's LeeNavlinBooks.com.
Oh, I love that website.
Thank you. When I'm not recording a podcast, I'm writing books. That's LeeNavlinBooks.com.
And they're great books, too.
Ian, I'd like to say something.
Please do.
Ian, so Essex County Commissioners serve as part of a 9-member legislative body. Call them the Congress of the county.
You've done your homework, Lee.
They pass ordinances, approve the annual budget, and they authorize contracts for projects.
You know what, Lee? This is an educational program.
Ian, thank you.
And you're doing a great job at educating people.
Ian, they also oversee county infrastructure like roads and parks.
They do.
They also provide checks and balances on the county executive.
They do.
Ian, would you like to add anything to my brilliant thanks to Google take?
I don't even think that I can, Lee. You outdid yourself.
So, Ian, our guest today on the Lee and Ian Show is Christine McGrath. She's a Verona councilwoman and a Democratic municipal chair, and she has joined the race to become an Essex County Commissioner At-Large. Welcome to the Lee and Ian Show,
Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you.
I am really interested in this Essex County race because, Ian, I believe there's a few big names that have kind of stepped down, they're retiring, and some seats have opened up.
That's correct.
And we have quite a few candidates. And Christine, you have a track record in Verona. You've done so much for your town, for the county. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your background before we get into what you plan to do once you're a county commissioner?
Sure. Thank you so much, both of you, for having me today. As I said before, this is my very first podcast, so I'm really excited.
You're off to a great start.
Thank you.
And they're all not this awful. So anyway, you're it's going to get better. I promise you.
Well, thank you. Yes, I'm Christine McGrath for the last over 6 years. I've been serving as councilwoman in Verona, New Jersey, where I've been living for the last 15 years. But I've done a lot of things since I moved to New Jersey. Back to New Jersey 15 years ago. I've done gun violence prevention work with Moms Demand Action. I led several nonprofits in Verona. And as you already mentioned, I'm also the chair of the Verona Democratic Party. And so I've had a record of service over the last 15 years, and I'm really excited to be on the precipice possibly of a new chapter.
Yeah.
Well,
one of the things also that I want to point out, too, is, as somebody who has been an elected official who's involved in democratic politics, one of the things that you hear all the time is people say, like, well, I didn't know about that. Like, why didn't anybody tell me about that? And Christine actually has done a fantastic job in Verona at making sure the people of Verona know everything that's going on at their town council meetings, everything that's gone into the background of the decisions they make. Christine, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about that? Because I think it's really important and really valuable.
Well, thank you. 7 years ago, I ran for local office, and I saw that our local news was disappearing. So as many people know, the parent company to USA Today bought up a lot of our papers, and they bought the Verona Cedar Grove Times, and they really gutted the staff. And residents were feeling really out of step on what was happening on the local level. And so when I ran, I promised to keep them informed. And then I delivered on that promise by writing summaries of every single council meeting after they occur. And I write them from my point of view on what I think is really important, but I like to explain government and how it's working for local residents. And that allows them, because they don't have the time to sit through hours of meetings, but it allows them to chime in when the issues are important to them. At first, I put these summaries just on social media, and now I have a website, ChristineMcGrathVerona.com, and I put blog updates every time we have a meeting. They're not the best written things in the world. I'm not a super writer, but I am an explainer, and they are from my point of view.
So it's conversational, kind of, here's what you missed,
100%. And also it explains when I differ with my colleagues. It explains, why I have the position that I do. It doesn't mean that residents always agree with that, but I want them to understand, who I am, what my values are, and how I'm voting, and really what's important, what's happening with government so that they do stay informed.
So you were doing this before you were an elected official. You were.
I started when I started campaigning because previous to that, I was sort of aware with what was going on with government, but mainly from the newspaper. And as that started to go away, I kind of foresaw, we're in big trouble. If residents don't understand what is happening at the town council and frankly, even Board of Ed level, we're not going to have the best decision making.
Right.
Because getting input is actually a really important part of good government, even though at times it's hard. And sometimes there are some issues that are very divisive that you're never going to get to agreement on. But residents actually have a lot of expertise, and we need to get that expertise, into the decision-making process. The council in Verona is only 5 people, and there's 15,000 residents in Verona. So I want to hear from them on issues that really matter to our community and matter to them.
What's the hottest issue right now in Verona?
Our pool.
Okay.
So our community pool is our crown jewel. It's really an amazing asset. But in recent times, the cost to run a pool have really skyrocketed. Right. And so this is the issue that's the emotional heart of what's happening. And for the first time, we decided to open up our pool to out-of-town memberships, but we limited them, and they sold out in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because our pool is incredible. It has like a huge double slide, a splash park for the kids. It's Olympic size. People can do laps. So it is, when it ran into some financial trouble, people were very concerned. And one of the things that I brought to the table was when I joined the council, I kind of got our administration to start doing a survey after the end of every season. And the residents, again, they have great ideas. So how to strengthen the pool finances, a lot of the ideas that we're implementing come directly from residents from that survey. The last survey, they submitted 25,000 words, because they're so passionate. So I have to say the hottest topic is the pool. But one of the hardest things to solve, I must say, is replacing our police station and one of our firehouses. So that's the issue that's on my mind, and that keeps me up at night. To replace such a major building and infrastructure is a big cost, and it's complicated.
Yes.
And so that is something that, for me, is top of mind. But for the residents, I think right now, especially as we're approaching pool season and coming out of last year, the pool is the emotional core.
Yep. Very interesting.
So our relationship, Ian and I, basically the relationship works. Ian, he likes to school me. And for instance, like we'll go outside after the podcast is over, and he'll go, "How's your oil in my car?" Oil's fine. He's like, "Make sure you change your oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. It's very important." So this is our relationship.
Okay.
So Ian,
I'm wondering where this is going.
So, 3 at-large commissioners, Siebold, Gill, and Sermons they're not seeking re-election.
Lee, I am so impressed with you today. Because I didn't school you on
See
this.
what I mean? Yeah. So I actually have to do my homework before the podcast, or Ian will reprimand me. So these are the at-large, and you're seeking an at-large.
I am.
Okay, so what is the at-large versus a regular county commissioner seat? School me, and maybe some listener out there will be like, Lee's the only one who didn't know this, but I'm hoping a few others are curious
there's a lot
as well.
of people who don't know.
Yeah.
So there are 5 districts in the county, and each one of those districts is represented by a county commissioner who represents that district.
Okay,
so
like the
in
10th, the
Maplewood-
11th, and so forth.
No, that's Congress.
Oh.
Right? So Essex County is divided into 5 county commission districts.
Okay.
Our county commission district is Maplewood, Irvington, a significant portion of the West Ward, a significant portion of the South Ward, and a little tiny portion of the Central Ward of Newark. And we're represented by Dorian Murray Thomas, who, by the way, is going to come on the podcast at some point over the next month or so.
All right.
And then there are 5 districts like that each have somebody they specifically represent that district. There are then 4 at-large commissioners who represent the entire county, everybody in the county's interests for the 4 at-large candidates, and that's what Christina's running
So
for.
Christine, eligible voters are Maplewood, South Orange, Verona.
Maplewood, South Orange, Verona, Newark,
Okay.
Caldwell,
Bloomfield.
Bloomfield,
Yeah.
Belleville,
Milburn.
Milburn,
Milburn.
all of
Okay,
them.
Livingston.
All
Yeah,
22
West Caldwell.
towns.
Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha. But for the specific county commissioner for the district, that would only be there.
Adori and Mary Thomas
Okay, and okay,
for
gotcha.
our district.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's so when you decided to run for this, did you have to call Ian and go, Ian, how do these things work like I did, or is it because it's a very convoluted process, but never these are very important positions.
Yes.
As I kind of stated at the top, and
Well, I like explaining complicated government to residents, so
Yeah, right.
it's really something that I enjoy. And also, I've done a lot of work over the last 15 years across the county. So
Okay.
when I took a step back, I realized, wow, I actually have a network in a lot of places. So I did a lot of work in Verona, and then I ended up doing volunteer work with gun violence prevention advocacy with Moms Demand Action, and I was actually the Essex County co-lead for the work in the entire county, and that brought me here to South Orange Maplewood because there was such a strong volunteer base here. It brought me to Newark, and I got to sit in with the Newark Community Street Team, which is an amazing organization doing very important work under the direction of Raz Baraka. And they've been so successful in the last decade in reducing gun violence. And it brought me to the halls of Trenton. So for the first time, I learned, how to speak to legislators and advocate. And then it led me to Mikey Sherrill. So it was the very first campaign that I worked on when she ran in 2018, knocked on doors. And that brought me to all different parts of the county, including door knocking in Fairfield. Which is always a fun experience because it is one of the more Republican sides of the county. And I had a great experience door knocking there as well. So through that work and through work with the Democratic Party, I realized I had really been all over the county and that to serve at county government, I already had networks and people that I knew and organizations that I supported throughout the entire area. So I thought it would be a good fit.
yeah. So you I think at the top of the podcast you said you grew up in New Jersey and then you left.
I did.
And you came back. So where did you
Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Montville, which
Montville,
is in
okay.
Morris County.
Yep.
And as I like to say, if you can't say what exit off the Parkway are you, you say, well, what mall did you go to growing up?
Yes.
So I went to Willowbrook Mall growing up.
Right.
And I loved Montville. It was a town that
That
was
Ville with the ILLE, not
yes,
AL, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it right next to Essex County. And it was a really safe community, great educational system growing up, but it had no center of town. It was not walkable.
Okay.
So when I went to college, I was like, I need to be in the city. And I got the chance to go to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia.
Very good.
And the best part about UPenn is I met my husband there. We've been married for 25 years.
Congratulations.
My husband is so supportive. So,
And
and
good grades to get in there, right? UPenn. That's
it was. I mean, now it's like next to impossible to get in. But
was
back
next to
then, I
impossible
did.
for me back then,
I
too.
did have very good grades to
Lee
get
and I
in.
love meeting smart people.
That's right. Yes.
So I really enjoyed it. It was walkable. Philadelphia is an amazing town,
Absolutely.
and I encourage everyone to go and visit if you haven't been there in a while. And then my husband and I, we lived in Hoboken, which everyone has to do a little time there,
Yes.
and Clifton. And then I got an opportunity through my work to actually move to Connecticut. So we spent 5 years outside of New Jersey. And it was great. My whole career was in health insurance and employee benefits.
Up in Hartford, I guess.
So I worked in Hartford.
Pretty impressed.
Yeah.
And you know Hartford well,
I
right?
went to
Lee?
University of Hartford. That's why
Oh, there you
Yes,
go.
that's
Well,
right.
Hartford is also a wonderful city. I actually
Yes.
lived in Fairfield, though, which
Yeah, I know Fairfield.
Yes, which on the Long Island shore, beautiful.
Beautiful.
And my husband worked in New York City, so during the day we were 3 hours apart.
Wow.
And that was really spicy after we had our first son, William, and he was in daycare, and we were both an hour and a half away, but we made it work. But then we realized when I was going to have my second born, it was time to get back to family and back to Jersey. I loved our time in Connecticut. It was hard to leave a shore town for sure. The Long Island Sound is beautiful, but we had to get back to our Jersey roots. And we settled in Verona because we wanted a walkable community. And, from our house, I wanted to be able to walk to the library, to restaurants, to the center of town. And that's why we moved to Verona. And it was absolutely the best decision we ever made.
For you.
Now, Montville, Ian, I believe Montville is to Pine Brook what Maplewood
Yes.
is to South Orange.
Yeah.
Would I be correct in saying that?
You know what?
Wow, Lee.
Sort of. That's very impressive. Actually, Montville is a township. So Pine Brook and Tuaco and Montville are all just one town,
Okay.
but different zip codes, where I think you're really two separate towns with a shared school district. So
Correct.
it's slightly different.
Yeah. So
But that's
And
impressive.
One nickname, or two nicknames actually, right? Soma and Mapso.
That's
Kids
right,
from
that's right.
Maplewood say Mapso. Kids from
that's
South Orange say Soma.
so they don't say Montpine or anything like that.
Yeah.
But Verona's a wonderful town. We walk the park in Verona, Bloomfield Avenue. It
really is a nice town.
It's
It's
built
wonderful.
up with a lot of restaurants over the last few years.
Yep.
What's been the secret to Verona's success? Because I've seen it. I grew up in Livingston. I know this area. I've lived in Maplewood for many years, and I've seen it's a different Verona than it was 15, 20 years ago. It's just, I guess, just smart leadership.
Well, yes,
development.
and listen, I think the residents, whether they've lived in town their whole lives or like me are relatively new transplants, really care about the community and they get involved. So I got involved with the Junior Women's Club of Verona, which is a 100-year service organization. I also led our Friends of the Verona Public Library. And at that time, there was a group of very dedicated residents that advocated successfully to the town council to restore the physical building, which is a Carnegie Library, to its glory. And I encourage anyone listening to this podcast to come to our library and see how gorgeous it is.
Is it on Bloomfield Avenue?
It is on Bloomfield Avenue, and it's tucked away in our Civic Center, which is our police station, our town hall, our middle school, and our library all in one location. And we have great summer concerts, so I encourage people, you can come out then and then pop in the library. But we have one of the oldest volunteer rescue squads in the state, and it's thriving. We have a great volunteer fire department. Our police force is top notch. We have very dedicated employees, and we have nonpartisan local government. So I think in some ways everything is, and we have great business owners and now a thriving chamber of commerce, and a lot of residents set up their own businesses, like the Collective, our new bookstore, which we're very excited to have. I think once you get an independent bookstore, your town gets to the next level.
Yes.
And the owner of that store is a Verona resident and is really fantastic, as are many of our
Who's
small.
that owner of the bookstore?
Josh Jacobs.
Yes, I know Josh. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So it's really, but we have great restaurants, and many of them owned by local residents. And there's just a lot of care in the town. So I think that's why Verona is thriving, and really happy to. It was the best decision ever to move there, and it, as a lot of Essex County has a very thriving real estate market. So when there's an open house, there's a line of cards from New York City down the street.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting, Lee, because you said in the last 15 years or so ago is when Christine moved to Verona. Right?
Yeah,
so I
see,
think
there you
that
go.
She's had a big impact
the day
on
it changed.
Verona's success, right?
Yeah, that's the day it changed. But you're Mom, you're a dedicated volunteer, you're a leader, you're a busy woman. When you sat with your husband and you said, "Hey, these county commissioner jobs, there might be an opportunity here." That's a big, not a big step, but it's a very time consuming. You're gonna be running, you're gonna be campaigning, and then assuming you win, your life is gonna change. What went into that process?
Well, I was so committed to Mikey Sherrill becoming governor. I've been with her since the beginning, both my husband and I, knocking on those doors, supporting her, and supported her as part of the primary process. And I really have been inspired by her to be involved in public service. She's one of the reasons why I ran for local government. My husband's been so incredibly supportive of me in general.
Important.
Very important. Secret to a 25-year marriage, for sure. He really has been with me every step of the way. Sometimes even when I flag in confidence, he is there to lift me up and say, "No, you should do that." And so I'm ready for a new challenge. And after Mikey was elected as governor, I kind of sat down and reviewed my options. And when I realized that this was an opportunity, he was like, absolutely, we're totally doing this. So
Yeah.
he has unfailing faith in me and is also, willing to pick up the slack. So we have one son in college. We have one son in high school who still isn't of driving age. So he's there. And my parents are nearby as well. They live in North Caldwell now. And so they're also incredibly helpful and supportive to kind of help make this work. And my children are also very flexible. They
good.
really, they have their own lives. They don't care what I'm doing. And they also understand if I miss a concert, there's either my husband's there, my parents are there. So they're really kind of chill about the whole thing.
That's
And
great.
they do their thing and I do mine.
Very good.
Many years ago, I ran for office and I lost. And our audience is probably sick and tired of me talking about this, but I'm still
You did very respectfully.
I'm still sore about it. But when I was running, I didn't know anything about running for office. I spoke to someone who was kind of, political savant, I guess you might say. And they said, you got to come up with something. I'm like, well, what? They're like, well, how about transparency? I'm like, okay, transparency. Yeah. So I'm walking around there. What are you going to do differently? I'm going to be transparent. So, there are still complaints in small government, small towns, municipalities that the local government is not transparent. They lack transparency. Not only have you gone ahead with the townwide e-newsletter, but this I find very interesting. The addition of a public comment period before the council consent agenda.
Yes.
That was you. So basically, you said, I want people coming up here to tell us what they need for us to be thinking about before.
Yes, before we actually vote and take action. And that actually was born from a messy situation in my first few months on the council. So, as part of a normal meeting, there's something called consent agenda. Mm-hmm. And there's like a lot of things wrapped into one, which is fine to be efficient with government and just have one vote on a lot of what's normally routine matters. But every once in a while, or, there's something in there that's actually not routine. It's actually like a major thing embedded in lots of like small little things. And we actually passed something, and then a resident with expertise got up afterward and sort of said, I can't believe you just voted for this. Like, didn't you understand that this thing, what kind of precedent you were setting, blah, blah, blah. And we had to reverse action at the meeting. And from there, I was like, well, we can't let that happen again. And so I made sure that we had this public comment period added before consent agenda so that residents could comment on anything there. The other thing that I did and advocated for is that we talk about ordinances in new business. So, an ordinance, when you introduce it, the public does not have a chance to comment on it. And then when you go to second reading, you have to advertise a public hearing. Well, another element of government is that the cost to put in that advertisement in the shrinking newspapers is very, very high. And in government, that can really add up. If you have an active council, you have a lot of ordinances. And what was, we didn't have a culture of like fixing it and reintroducing because every time you reintroduce, you have to pay that bill, right? To advertise it. The other thing that was happening is sometimes we were passing ordinances and then mistakes were in there, or residents came forward afterward and said, hey, you didn't think about X, Y, and Z, or business owners. There was even, before I was even elected, there was a famous issue where a business owner actually staged a petition to overturn an ordinance.
Wow.
So that's a lot of wasted time. So one of the things that I added to the process is really using new business to talk about ordinances and then to wait until the next meeting to introduce, to give the public a chance and business owners to review what the council is considering and speak up before we start the process of introducing. Because I just think that's more efficient than keeping redoing things and fixing mistakes. And it allows the public to participate. And that's another reason for my summaries. Because I say, hey, in new business, we talked about X, Y, and Z. We want your feedback. It's going to be introduced at the next meeting. So it gives time for the public to catch up.
Now, you were deputy mayor of Verona.
I was.
You was. Now, Ian was deputy mayor of Maplewood. So my question is this. Do you guys have like a secret handshake, deputy mayors? Is there
How
anything?
do you know?
Yeah, I assume there was something, right? There's,
it's a secret society.
Yeah. That's right. So, but as a deputy mayor, it's it's almost, sometimes I feel like that job's almost harder than being mayor itself, because it's almost like you're doing some of the dirty work, where the mayor maybe is shaking hands and kissing babies, and the deputy mayor is kind of, in the meetings and the various we have what Maple at South Orange have various you're on the green team, you're on the building
liaisons to all the different advisory committees.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do that in Verona as well.
Yeah. Well, we have a manager. So this is the other confusing thing about government. There are so many different types of government.
Yes.
So the title, even the title of mayor or deputy mayor, has different meanings.
Yep.
From town to town. So in Verona, we have a 5-member council. We're nonpartisan. That means we don't run under a party banner, which makes us a little bit unique in Essex County. And we pick the mayor and the deputy mayor amongst ourselves, but we're really a manager council form of government. So we are really advisory. We're really like a board of directors. We're there to approve the budget, to approve major spending, similar to the county board of commissioners. But we don't have any staff, and we don't hire and fire staff except for really our town manager. And so we hire him or her. We're responsible for their performance. And then they really run the whole town. So whether the title's mayor, deputy mayor, or just council person, our responsibilities are actually in Verona fairly equal. And the mayor only has just some small additional responsibilities. But in other towns, you're directly electing the mayor. They have their own staff. So this is also what makes government confusing to people, because in New Jersey, we do it lots of different ways.
I think there are 9 different forms of government in New Jersey.
And then there's and then there's some people that are grandfathered and old things, so it makes it even more of a mess.
Yeah, because even here in Maple, South Orange, we share a school system, we share services, but they have nonpartisan elections in South Orange. And obviously in Maple.
And they have a village president. Oh, well, it's
she's
village
the mayor now.
She's the mayor now.
But it
was always the village president.
But
in
we
South
don't.
Orange.
But we know Sheena's a Democrat, but she's never run as a Democrat because she didn't have to anyway.
Right.
Yeah. And neither did I. So and at the time, actually, South Orange and Verona were on the same election schedule, and we actually both made this similar decision.
Very good.
And we moved our May election nonpartisan to November nonpartisan. And so this last November, when Mikey Sherrill was on the ballot for governor, for the first time, we had nonpartisan elections also in November. So I love the nonpartisan system in a lot of ways. And for me, when I first ran 7 years ago, I didn't have to kiss any rings to run. I didn't have to ask for permission.
Yes.
My husband, as I already said,
We just talked about kissing the ring, right?
That's right. We have talked about kissing the ring. Yeah.
So my husband was very supportive. I didn't need to ask for permission. I just went to the clerk. I got a ballot. I got a few hundred people to sign my petition. And, I designed my entire campaign on my own. And I ran and I spoke to all sorts of voters. I was targeting voters that normally come out in May, the most engaged voters. So whether they were Democrat or Republican. Now, that's not to say that partisanship doesn't enter into the conversation, and we're in a very partisan environment. So people would say, well, what are you? And I said, well, for our local government is nonpartisan. They're like, no, what are you? Yes. And I knew that sometimes when I answered that question, I was either going to be losing a vote or gaining a vote, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, people, I think, are equating partisanship with values. And so people that are Democrats wanted to be reassured that I shared their values. And most people knew my work with gun violence prevention, so they understood that I was Democratic leaning.
So just to clarify, so the 3 at-large county commissioner seats, Siebold, Gill, and Sermons, they're all Democrats. You're running as a Democrat. I think there's.
Don't forget, she was the chair of the Democratic Party.
Chair of the Democratic Party of Verona,
Yes.
right? Now, Ian, there are no Republicans running for these seats.
Do you know if there are? I don't know.
I believe there are going to be Republicans in November running for these seats.
Okay.
So we're approaching the Democratic primary on June 2nd.
The deadline hasn't passed.
The deadline's passed for the primary.
For the primary.
For the primary. And there are Republicans, I believe, running for their primary, which is uncontested.
Okay.
But we do have a contested Democratic primary, and it's for all 4 seats.
Yes.
So even the incumbent, Wayne Richardson, he's running for re-election.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then there's 4 people that have gained party support, and I'm one of those those 4 people.
Excellent.
And there's 2 other individuals in the race. So,
And I just want to point out in terms of party support, so at the local or the county convention that was held recently, which, by the way, Maplewood was one of the strong proponents of making that happen.
Okay.
The top vote getter for a county commissioner seat was Christine McGrath.
Oh, look at that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I didn't know.
Was it 10 or 11 people running?
11.
11. And she was the top vote getter.
Yeah.
As I would have, if I know, I would have held the door open for you when you walked in. I did not know. No, I'm just, even more reason why we really appreciate you coming on the podcast, because you're off to the races, and it's, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. But I think at the 10-mile mark sounds like you're leading. Right now.
Thank you. Well, the voters, though, they don't know what this position is.
They don't. So maybe we should talk about that.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So, by the way, Joe DiVincenzo, he's
The county
running
executive.
unopposed, right, for a 7th term, I
In
believe.
the primary, yes.
Right,
Yes.
so he's running as a county executive, which is a little bit different than the commissioner spots. Quite a few running for commissioner. Maplewood's Deb Bangle, Livingston's Sean Klein, and I don't want to. I should stop mentioning names so I don't leave anybody out. But
Well, Sean Klein's coming on the podcast, so we can mention him.
okay, good. But okay, you guys talk about county commissioner jobs. What
I think we should
to
hear
look
from
forward
Christine
to
about that,
Yeah.
because I think you're right. That's very important. I think a lot of people don't understand what the county commissioners do.
Yeah.
And Christine has studied this very closely and has some really good ideas, and we should hear from her a little bit about
and more
that.
importantly, what you're going to do when you're the county
Yeah.
commissioner.
Well, I'm going to take my record of what I've done in Verona and apply it countywide. It's really important to explain to residents what county government does. And you did open up the podcast actually with a great summary.
Thank you.
It is a checks and balance to the county executive. And I don't think anyone running thinks that the county executive is doing a poor job. In fact, he's had such an incredible record of success over the last 20 years. In particular with improving the finances of the county, investing in our parks, and investing in building infrastructure in particular.
Agree with you there.
Yeah, 100%. But what's important, especially from my point of view with the commissioners, is all 9 commissioners need to be on the ground, listening, talking to people, communicating, making connections, and really explaining the value from the resident down to the town council member to nonprofit leaders and business owners. What is the county doing? What is the county investing in? What are the hard choices that the county needs to make? Because let's face it, there's going to be a cut in federal funding.
Yep.
We're seeing trickles of it, but it's going to come in full force next year. Things like Medicaid and SNAP all run through the county. And so we have to understand, what is the impact going to be on our most vulnerable residents? How are grant programs changing, federal funding programs changing? And at the same time, we have incredibly increasing costs to provide health insurance. And this is actually impacting government at the local level, both municipal and Board of Ed, and the county level, and at the state level. So we're barreling towards some really tough times. And I'm really running to be the communicator and being the connector to really understand the things that are happening on the local level, find those trends, and then bring it up to the county to understand, can we actually be helpful here? Can we make government at the local level more affordable? Can we impact the lives of residents in a way where they may not realize that the county can provide a service they can tap into to help their lives, help them find a new job, make sure that they're not food insecure, help them with housing costs? Like, what are those things that we can do? Because the county government is actually very wide and expansive, and most residents don't realize that. And to be frankly, even I am learning as well as I get deeper into this process.
And one thing I want to point out also about Christine is, ever since Christine made the decision that she wanted to pursue this position, she really has, she's always gotten out all over the county, but I've seen Christine on a number of occasions in Maplewood over the course of the last 2 months, because she does take it very seriously about getting to know the entire county and knowing it well. And she's been here quite a bit. And we thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And I'm just getting started.
Yes,
so,
I know.
So I really, I really can't wait to kind of do all the things in terms of supporting small businesses. understanding the nonprofits and connecting them, and then really understanding those local government issues, what's impacting. So if Verona needs to build a new police station and Montclair needs to build a new police station, where are there some things where the county can be helpful in that process, right? And really making those connections. We like to, besides transparency as a buzzword, the buzzword also is shared services.
Yes.
So, and that is a big one as well. Are there opportunities for the county to actually start taking on a few things that are actually done at the local government level? Local government is really hard. I think that's one thing residents don't fully understand. It's not like there's robust staffs in a lot of our communities. Right. I would imagine Verona, Maplewood, South Orange are all very similar. So you don't have like teams of people that are able to work on things. There's a lot of retirements with baby boomers leaving the workforce. And listen, if you're a talented financial young person, are you going to go to like work as, in finance in your local government, or are you going to go to Wall Street? Well, you're probably going to go to Wall Street because you're going to make a big bonus, and the salaries are just not the same. So we have a dearth of talent at times, and we need to get creative on how we're going to tackle really hard things like health insurance, like talent, like environmental change, and like decreasing an unpredictable federal government.
So, Ian, if Christine were to win, she would become the first Democratic county commissioner from Verona since Jerome Greco, a former mayor who served in the 1970s and 80s.
Wow, Lee,
Yes.
I am so impressed with you today.
Thank you. Now, that's very interesting trivia I threw at you, but I guess it also makes it a little bit difficult for you when you're talking to your neighbors to say, I'm running for county commissioner. So, and look, the people, we've changed over the last few years. A lot of people have moved into the area. You said, from New York. So a lot of people who are just getting acclimated with how New Jersey works, how Essex County works, they're probably not familiar with the county commissioner position. So there's a little bit even more of explaining.
There is. And again, because Verona's local government isn't partisan, in some ways it's not, and because of its size, it's not necessarily tapped into some of the, traditional political power structure. So I had to kind of create my own in order to be successful at winning the party's nomination. And I think that was it was a great process for me because I got a chance to meet so many people, including sitting down with all of the mayors of all of our major cities and meeting the Democratic leaders that are on the ground who are knocking on the doors trying to get the word out about elections. But the number one question, in Verona, the number one question I've gotten asked for years is, when are you running for higher office?
Yes.
So finally, I got to say to people, I'm running for higher office. I'm running for county commissioner. And they're like, that's amazing. What is that?
Yeah, right.
So,
does it come with a badge? You know what I mean?
Right. So, and then the next question I get is, wait, does that mean you have to leave the council? And I'm like, yes, that is New Jersey law. When you get elected to one position, you have to leave the other. So, but residents see that this is a great opportunity, certainly in Verona. But I really will be looking at this as a county-wide position, and I will be everywhere. That will be the opportunity and the challenge. But I'm really excited, even now, trying to pull together what these connections are and making county government run very efficiently. And for the Board of Commissioners to have its own voice on what they think the legislative priorities should be.
Well, I just want to say something. Now, we're joking around. The county commissioner, people aren't familiar with it. This is your first time running for it. But you are no political lightweight. 2019, you ran, you were the top vote getter. It's the first time you would run for it. It was 5 candidates, 2 seats. You were the top vote getter. You ran again in 2023. Again, you were the top vote getter.
Yes.
You know how to get out there. You know how to get votes. You know how to get reelected.
I do.
People are impressed with you. I would say, Ian, this is a political heavyweight.
I have to agree with you.
That we're chatting with.
Well, thank you very much. The first election was really great. That was actually a wonderful election, and I won by a significant margin between me and the second place finisher. And I was running against 2 incumbents, one of whom was the deputy mayor at the time. I ran against a 15-year veteran of the Board of Education,
Wow.
and an honored veteran from the Middle East conflict, and myself. So it was a really, big election, and I knocked on a lot of doors, and that's really the secret to being in politics, is to really meet as many voters as possible. And I did it in a data strategic way. I love data, and so I bought my own data, cut my own turfs, and did that.
Wow.
And when I won the second time, I'm the only woman in Verona to be the top vote getter in 2 elections, and only the third person ever to do so.
Amazing.
So it was great, and it was very sweet to come in also first at the convention. So I have a lot of work to do to continue this streak, but I think people really connect with the fact that I bring a lot of positivity and enthusiasm, to everything that I do. In fact, our theme with the Verona Democrats is positive political community, which seems like an oxymoron to put positive and political in the same sentence.
Yeah.
And it's not Pollyanna. There's very, very serious problems going on in the world, and people are very afraid. Some of them even to leave their own homes. So, we're dealing with very serious issues. But I really want to bring active, kind of positive change to the political process and show what government can do and inspire people to take actions in ways that are productive.
Well,
Very good.
we only have a few minutes left. We certainly we're happy this is your favorite podcast of all time you've ever been on. Right?
It's the best one you've ever been on.
It's the best one I've ever been on.
But how can people learn more about you?
Well, my website is ChristineForEssex.com. I'm also on social media at ChristineForEssex.com. And they can certainly Google me and check out my ChristineMcGrathVerona.com website if they want to see what kind of updates I've been writing. But yes, I'm on all of the socials, and people should feel free to reach out.
Excellent.
And if they have any specific questions. And, I think I think residents are going to learn a lot about the Essex County Board of Commissioners with this election, because there's going to be so many new faces representing new areas, people, and we no longer have a primary with a line.
Right.
People will look at this position, I think, a little bit differently, but I'm ready, and I think everyone else running with the under the Essex County Democratic slogan will be ready to really engage with residents.
Very good.
Yeah. And Ian, so when I got grounded when I was 15, I rode my bike from Livingston to Verona to hang out with a friend of mine that I had met that summer, and man, was my mother mad.
Well, where in Verona did you go? To the White Castle?
We went to the White
There's
Castle.
a White Castle, Verona?
No longer.
We were rough kids. We hung out underneath the railroad bridge. You
I
can imagine what we
know.
were doing under there.
Holy.
So anyway, so the reason that she found
Same
out
thing
is
you'd be doing now.
well, the reason she found out is I wasn't going to ride my bike home. 20 miles.
Can you come get me?
Can you come get me? How did you get there? Anyway, but Verona's it's an awesome town, and I really appreciate you coming down.
Yeah,
and,
thank you,
Thank
Christine.
you.
so it's a 3-year term. 3-year term.
Yes.
So this is
ChristineForEssex.com.
And when is the election, Ian?
It is on June 2nd
Second.
is the primary.
June 2nd is the primary.
June 2nd. Yep.
Okay. all
Yep.
right.
And I'm listed third on the ballot. So
Okay. So
there
all
you
right.
go.
So that's it. So McGrath, June 2nd.
There we
Yeah.
go.
there you
Christine,
go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was
Christine.
absolute
We
delightful.
appreciate
This
you
is
coming.
great.
Yep.
All right. Ian.
That was it.
That was it. Okay.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, until we do it again. Good night.